Welcome to this week's episode of Lagnapod. I'm your host, Rob Holbert, and here with me today,
Ashley Trice,
Grant McLaughlin,
Scott Johnson,
Kyle Hamrick,
Tommy Hicks.
we have a full house. Okay. Scott, you have been working hard on all of this Tommy Tuberville, where does he live stuff over the last week or so, and have found some pretty interesting stuff. What's the latest on all that?
Yeah, I got public records from the Lee County Commission office in Opelika, which is Auburn.
Yes.
Same, yeah.
Yes.
I requested the county exemption, property tax exemption records for the applications on those.
On his house there,
yeah.
Cherry Street house, right?
Yeah, one bathroom, 2,500 square foot, 1,500 square foot house there near the university. Now we've known that he's owned this house, or his family has owned this house since 2017.
Right.
We've known that it was only his son Tucker and his wife that were on the deed until 2024. So the records I got from the Lee County Revenue Commission's office is that it showed that it was not his wife who signed for the tax exemption. It was his son Tucker who signed for that.
So when you go for this exemption, when you go for your homestead exemption, you have to apply in person, correct?
Yeah, it's you can only put it on one piece of property for single family homes. Basically,
generally that's considered where people live.
Yeah,
most people are going to say this is you can't have it on multiple houses, and they're usually going to put it on the house they live in. It helps reduce the property tax. And in this case, there was what I guess others had reported earlier was that there was a Thomas Tuberville on there, and they said, well, that kind of puts it to rest. He's got a homestead exemption on this house and has had it since whenever.
Yeah, there was multiple articles where they were pointing to that homestead exemption.
And Tuberville, Tommy Tuberville agreed to that as well. Said, yes, that's right.
Yes.
That's right. I'm good to go.
It shows my residence. And for those who aren't familiar, there's a 7-year residency requirement for governor. So from the date of election. So if he wants to run for governor in this year, November 2026, he needs to have established a primary residence, which would have been
before
November 2019.
Right.
Yeah, that would matter because he wasn't on the deed until later.
But what you found out was that the Thomas Tuberville on there is his son Holly.
His son
Tucker.
Yes.
Sorry, he's Holly. His son Tucker.
Yes.
Tucker is the one who signed
and that was not changed until he was added to the deed.
Right.
He actually applied for a different kind of homestead exemption, which people 65 or older can apply for. Yeah. So, and it's kind of what you suspected. I was suspecting to see Tucker's signature there. At the same time in 2018, both him and his wife claimed a homestead exemption in Santa Rosa County, Florida, where they voted, and that was without question their residency during 2018.
And the state of Alabama would not have allowed his wife to have a homestead exemption on that home, even though her name is on it.
Yes.
She scratched out spouse and put mom.
Yeah. She also listed their lake house. Do you own any other property? She listed lake house.
Yeah.
Which should have negated it if it was connected to her, because you can't have two. But clearly it was Tucker's, and that's what we. Yeah.
So the other part of it, that at this point you've done. I mean, honestly, that you've done more reporting on this than anybody else in the state. I have come to the absolute conclusion at this point that Tuberville doesn't have anything that shows that he lived there prior to 2019, to that date in 2019 that he was there.
And if he does, he's not shown it. So there's opportunities for him to show state income tax records, or show us his driver's license. I forwarded a clip to some of you guys over the weekend. Where the conservative commentator was talking back in how he was raising this issue in 2019, and he's a Tommy Tuberville supporter. He said the senator wouldn't show him his driver's license then.
Right.
So lots of opportunities to show it, and I'm sure this is this isn't going to get me not elected. That's where the kind of attitude I'm sure that he's looking at this as is we're not going to address it because really it's not going to have any kind of weight on whether or not to get votes or not.
I think it will. I think it will. But I think the thing that we're not doing it because we're trying to get Tommy Tuberville not elected or anything. It's just our job to verify these things. And, unfortunately, a lot of the other media in the state aren't really going to do it. And you're doing it. And, as I wrote in my column this week, I am at this point just convinced that by the preponderance of the evidence that there's nothing that shows that he lived there. And there's a lot of stuff that shows that he was still using his address in Florida as his primary address long after
routinely
after the 19th. So you've got other he's signed legal documents in Florida for other properties using that. It's just and he's avoided other circumstances where he could have used that address and hasn't done it.
Yeah, if the listeners haven't viewed the other articles we've done, I've looked at his Senate travel expense records and his campaign finance expense records. One showing that his travel disclosed in the Senate. There's very voluminous records of him continuously traveling to Florida during Senate work breaks. Especially
and he's getting paid back by the taxpayers for flying to Florida, which if that is his vacation home, he shouldn't be doing that.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, he's not supposed to be doing it at all. If he's flying home, if he lives in Alabama, I mean, the way it works in Congress is that if you're flying home, you are typically doing work at home. You're doing something at home.
Yeah.
When you go on vacation, you don't get reimbursed for going on vacation.
And he's doing a lot of that in the records, but there's always a stop in Florida. There's always in 2023, there was numerous trips where it was just trips to Florida. So it's interesting. He hasn't responded to any of the questions concerning that.
I mean, I think at this point, you've laid it out there. I think that people can make their decision on it, if they care or not. My feeling as I wrote this week is the reason it does matter is because when we do these stories pretty often, these types of stories that somebody doesn't live where they say they're going to live that wants to run for office.
Recently, too.
And, we did one last year in District 2. We did several of them. We've done, I don't even know how many over the last 24 years that I've been working here. City councilman,
crazy ones,
the county commissioner who lived in a tool shed, all sorts of them. I mean, we've done lots of them. And this is, unfortunately, it's left up to media to do this because nobody at the state will vet these things. Nobody says this is, there should be somebody that just says, like, okay, you got to show me this documentation, not the political parties, because the political parties are going to let in whoever they think can win.
Yeah.
And that's where we are with this. If it doesn't matter to you, it doesn't matter to you. If it does, it does. If you are concerned with somebody starting their political career as governor with a lie, then I think it's concerning.
And it's also important to remember that not every office has the same requirements. There's, Senate is not the same requirement as governor, and city councilman is not the same as the mayor.
Right. And that's why this didn't come up as much when he ran for Senate. It was, people said, hey, he lives in Florida, but he was able to meet the residency requirements because all he had to do is say, this is my house, and yet he got his homestead exemption, moved over there, and that was enough. Right. This is a totally different animal, and people still don't want to understand that, but it says 7 years. They should change the law if they don't want it to be that way, but that's what the law is right now. So it's a good story. There's lots of information out there. I think you've done a tremendous job on it and found a lot of great stuff.
My eyes are burning from looking at all this stuff.
Sure. Kyle, this week you've got the cover story on some economics in the city, where Mobile is at this point, and there's a little bit of back and forth about are we on fire in a good way, or are we smoldering in kind of a not as great way?
On fire in a bad way. Well, it's up to the readers to decide kind of what they think of where we are. I talked to this one guy, Jay Hawkins. He works for PNC. He was blowing into town.
Bank. Yeah.
PNC Bank. He was blowing into town for a event, and he was like, hey, do you want to ask me about how the economy goes?
Yes.
And I'm like, yeah, we'll see what you think. And he said, well, it's not good.
Yeah.
That's how he started it. And then for the next 15 minutes, he just said, this is down. This is down. The factories are too bloated. The manufacturing sector is not strong enough to offset the other problems in the economy. And I said, well, I'm going to have to get a second opinion, third opinion on this. The Mobile Chamber.
So Bradley Byrne was there listening to him speak, as a matter of fact. And you interviewed Bradley, the head of the chamber. And Bradley says he could barely keep himself in his seat because he wanted to jump up and tell the guy you're wrong.
Yeah. Right in the middle of this thing. He said that the economy is great. We're all doing so well. The manufacturing is awesome. Sure, we need to diversify things more, but
I think in all fairness, Bradley said. I think in all fairness, he says we need more, but he said we're doing very well at this time.
Right. He did not share the view of Jay Hawkins that Mobile would be an underperformer for the entire South.
I think if you were looking at these two guys in a literary context, one is Eeyore and the other is Pollyanna. There's
or Tigger.
Or it may be Tigger. Yeah, if you're going from the Winnie the Pooh thing, but there's and then you've got your third guy you talked to is a economist out at South, and he's sort of in between.
He's a mix of both of them. He said, we're doing well. The manufacturing is great, but we absolutely do need to get more kinds of businesses here because the economy can't grow off of just Airbus and Austal. We need to get people to come back here to stay after school, and
they argue
some diversity is needed.
Both of the economists are saying, hey, you guys are too too manufacturing
industrial.
Is too much of a crutch here. It's too much. You're too dependent on manufacturing, which, I know that there's always a focus that we need more manufacturing, but in their regard, Mobile has plenty of manufacturing,
right?
And we need to be looking at other things like technology, more medical, more banking. That's one area that he said we were really lacking in is banking. But Bradley says we have more banks than we've ever had.
He's
building a brand new one down the street.
He says he has a hard time keeping up with all the banks that we have here.
Yeah. So there's definitely a tale of two cities. It's the same city here. Going back to the more literary stuff, but it's
same city, different fire.
I'm reading that book right now.
Okay, good. Does it talk anything about the economy? No,
I'm just no.
That's set in the French Revolution, I think.
Yeah,
I'm just trying
to
understand.
They didn't have very many banks at that point either.
They had some other things
they had other issues
to figure out.
It's hard enough just to read the sentences. I'm like, got to interpret every single line.
This is it's a good story. I think folks can check it out and kind of judge for yourself. I know if you've got as somebody who has a son who is 23 years old and graduated college and wants to come back here, but he has a hard time thinking about something that he would want to do here that is in his field. So
there is a real problem.
There are some things that maybe need to expand a little bit. We're going to take a quick break, and we're going to come back and talk a little sports with Tommy Hicks. And we are back with Tommy Hicks. Tommy, there's a little bit of football news this time of year. It's not maybe the best kind of football news, but
there's always football news, but sometimes it's more newsy than others.
Yeah.
Right now, Zach Golson, who's the head coach at MGM, has been placed on a leave of absence. I talked to him the day that the news broke. He confirmed that he is on leave, but he would not publicly talk about the reasoning for that. There have been a lot of reports out, all circulating on the fact that MGM has what they call an 8th grade signing kind of thing. It's just like a little deal for middle school players making the move up to high school. And apparently at one of these in April that they had in April, according to reports, that some middle schoolers that are not in the MGM district in their feeder system attended. There were pictures of them on social media, which now becomes are you violating AHSAA
recruiting stuff. Yeah. So
he's been placed on leave. There is if you look in the handbook, in the AHSAA handbook, if a coach is found to have violated the recruiting rule, he can be barred from coaching at any AHSAA member school for a year.
Okay.
Which would be a big blow for MGM. Alex Page, who played at South Alabama, if you remember, he was a good player there, defensive end. He is the defensive coordinator. He's been placed in charge of the program right now. They actually played their spring game Thursday.
Okay. How long is he suspended? Do we know?
We do not know. It's just apparently the AHSAA is investigating this particular case. And as we'll find out in our next story that we discuss, investigations, usually we don't find out what the heck.
Well, tell us more about that story. So we've got some a little bit more on the Daphne High cheer coach situation.
Yep. Grant had a story a month ago on this. Rachel Jablonski, who is the cheer coach.
Yeah.
She was relieved of those duties at the school. There were some parents or other supporters of the school that said that there was an alleged
incident where
she allegedly took part in a lap dance on a competition trip.
Yeah, that's right, to Orlando
with a student
so a student / cheerleader, apparently gave her a lap dance in a hotel.
I don't know if apparently. Allegedly. Let's say allegedly.
Yeah. No, I was going to say that there are a lot of people who say that video. There's allegedly a video that some are saying is not even real. This doesn't exist.
Yeah.
But yeah, and it was during a cheer trip to Orlando.
And all of this, just to put it in context, all of this came out after there were some changes in the program, and
they decided to switch from a more, I guess you would call, traditional cheerleading squad to a more a group that is more of the competitive cheerleading,
right.
Which, as you know, I know,
yes.
and lots of parents are discovering there's a big competitive cheer thing where there are state competitions.
Right.
There are national competitions.
Competitive cheer is it's way more like gymnastics and doing and all sorts of stuff. That's the stuff, you see kids flipping all over the place and doing all that. And then, so if you're not into that, if you haven't been doing that, it's hard to just start doing. Yeah. Yes. And so, I guess some of the girls.
So that affected the members of the cheerleading squad that were elected for this coming year.
Yeah.
Some members who had been on the team prior did not make this year, the next one,
which upset
parents, upset
students. And then there were claims that this had occurred. So so just putting it in context, we don't know what happened, but that's just the context.
We do not know.
At that point, then somebody complained, said this had happened.
So then the Baldwin County Public School System conducted an investigation.
Right,
is all they will say. Investigation. Now they're saying we cannot. We have concluded our investigation.
They have concluded the investigation.
She is still employed as a teacher. She will not be the coach.
Right.
But they would not reveal what the investigation, what was discovered during the investigation.
Yeah. Which is kind of a tough one if you're on the, if you're in her position and they're, I guess I would feel like if they weren't firing her for alleged behavior that is, if she's not getting fired, you can kind of read the tea leaves and say, well, maybe she didn't get involved in some kind of sexual harassment situation with a student. Then wouldn't it be nice if they would come out and say that if that's the case? But I would think just logically, I would think if they had an investigation and found that she had done this, she would probably get canned from her job as a teacher, I would think. But
and then talking to Chastity Riddick, who is the communications person for the school system, and she said, look, we can't reveal all of that. He said we can't even say what the subject matter was, because you're dealing with personnel,
of course,
decisions, stuff like that. So that's kind of So we know there was an investigation. We know it's completed. We know that she is still employed as a teacher, and we know that she will not be the cheer coach this year. We do know that the new cheer coach will be hired by the new principal.
Yes.
Will Duncan, I believe, if I'm correct,
Okay.
Dr. Will Duncan, who is currently the Robert Shell Elementary. He takes over on June 1. So that Mr. Comer, who is going out, is going to put that, let him have
He'll get that hot tater right there.
Way out.
Because there's also some rumors that some of the girls have said, if they don't put her back, they're not going to do the cheer thing. It's there's a lot going on there, but
there's a lot going on with that.
There's a lot going on there. We've got a lot going on with some other sports: soccer, baseball, golf, golf ball.
Spring sports.
Yes.
Hello.
Yes.
It's a lot. So we've already finished tennis and outdoor track and field, or through for the year. They had their state championships. This week we've got softball is going into regionals. Baseball is going into the quarterfinals. Golf, the sub-states were finished this week. The state tournament will be next week at 3 different locations, including Magnolia Grove will have the 6A, 7A state championships on Monday and Tuesday. And soccer is currently, today was the first day. We know that St. Luke's girls in 4A won their semifinal, so they'll play for it. But there's also been a lot of rain in Huntsville where they're having it, and so that schedule is being moved around. And the forecast is not good this weekend for baseball either, so it's going to be interesting.
Looking a little rainy.
Yeah.
And then I guess also just let's talk a little bit about the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, Mobile Sports Hall of Fame. In their 2026 induction class. Well, he's really good class. Derek Coleman, former NBA player, will be inducted. Derek Burrows, NFL player, former NFL player.
Only Derek's in this class, right?
A couple of Dereks.
Yeah.
And a Joe Nyland.
Okay.
The AD. Yeah,
very nice.
Spring Hill.
Very nice. Well, a wonderful man, well deserving.
Yes, he's the winningest coach at the University of Mobile in men's basketball, and the second winningest coach at Spring Hill.
Yeah.
So that's not bad. He was AD at both.
Yeah.
And Eric Gelding, baseball player, is also going to a 4-person class. Kind of interesting. The 2 Dereks and Eric.
Yeah.
Were all first-round draft picks in their sport.
That's
so
great.
That's pretty impressive.
That's impressive.
You could throw 3 first-rounders in there and a guy who's been basketball and AD coach at 2 schools in town. So.
Yeah, it's awesome. Good
group.
stuff. All right. Well, thank you, Tommy.
All right.
We're going to take a quick break, guys. We'll come right back and talk a little bit more. All right, we're back. We're doing this on a Wednesday, as we always do, and the redistricting fight and going on in the legislature is that's hot and heavy right now. Kyle, you've been watching it. What's going on?
That's right. As of Wednesday, the State House has approved a plan to set up a special primary if federal courts overturn the current court-ordered voting district maps. So if that goes on,
if they do the injunction,
if they overturn the injunction,
right,
and let the state use an old voting district map, then a special primary would take place for congressional districts 1, 2, 6, and 7.
Right.
That bill got a favorable vote in the House, and it heads to the state Senate,
where it's assumed that they will be passed there and that KIV will sign it. Yeah, so that is going to be one that is hotly watched, I'm sure. And it was so interesting that you pointed out, we were talking a little bit earlier about it, that if somehow this happens, they're allowed to use that map that they passed in 2023.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that Shamari Figures is not going to be running for District 2. He will still be running for District 2.
But a different one.
But it will be configured, and he won't be living in District 2 at that point.
No, he would not. Which, to run for Congress, you just have to be a resident of your state for 1 day.
Yeah.
So he would still be in the clear. He just would be in a different.
That would be more. Yeah, that would be one of the stranger things that happens if that occurs.
Same with Jerry,
strange.
Carl, and Rat Marcus.
Same with Jerry, because they would be running back in Mobile and Baldwin, not in Baldwin and the Wiregrass.
Right, but Jerry
Rat Marcus lives in the Wiregrass.
Yeah, right. He lives.
Marcus lives outside of the 2023 District 1.
And Jerry lives in District 1. He lives in the old District 1. Yeah. Anyway,
have we gotten good and mixed up yet?
It's mixed up.
Because this is what's going to happen.
Y'all may have already said this because I stepped out to make sure the Nappie Awards were working properly. But is there a deadline on when they have to make a decision on lifting that injunction?
There is currently a deadline. The court wanted some responses to all this by the end of the day tomorrow on Thursday. So this could be ruled on this week or maybe next. It could come up, but we would be coming in very close if we had to do a special primary.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's going to be one to keep an eye on. And then talk about the Nappies, Ashley. They're underway.
I gave you a natural segue there, and you didn't even take it.
We did. I just took it.
Have we done some redistricting for the Nappies?
We have.
Are the Nappies redistricted?
We have limited it to the voting until only United States citizens.
That's true. We did that. Yes.
Only because of all the foreign interference.
Tough luck, Somalia.
Yes. But.
No more Russian bots.
The Eastern European voting bloc had gotten too large.
Yes.
So we've started votenappies.com now through May 31st. You can vote once per category per day. It seems to be working fine at the moment, knock on wood.
Yes,
so,
everything is functional.
Yes. Lots of fun stuff. And then this year's theme is Rhinestone Rodeo. So I hope you're all getting your chaps ready for the Nappie.
I've always got my chaps ready.
For the Nappies.
And then let's also talk real quick. You are featured on a national podcast this week.
As are you.
Yes. Well, at the ToddCast.
The Chuck ToddCast. Yeah. Yes. The former moderator of Meet the Press has his own podcast, which may be a slightly better name than the Lagnapod.
Maybe.
The
I don't
ToddCast.
know. The ToddCast, it lends itself.
Yes. We had a good time talking with him. It's part of the Local News Day Initiative, which is just another organization, meant to highlight the importance of local journalism and, trying to make sure everyone is solvent for the future because it's always a battle here. Trying to make people subscribe or advertise, or when we're fighting Facebook and Google on the advertising front and fighting, I'm never going to pay for news on the
and AI and sharks all around us everywhere. Yeah, it's just we're swimming in bloody water all the time. It's tough.
Every time we get up on land and something else grabs us back down. But anyway, how did I get off on that? Chuck was lovely.
Yes. He was very kind to us. He was
very kind to have us on. And he, his wife apparently is from Pensacola, so he's down in this area a lot.
He was talking about that quite a bit. Also, if you're interested in seeing that, you can go to our Facebook page, the Lagniappe Facebook page. It is linked on there.
And you can also just search the Chuck ToddCast. So it's on
iHeartRadio,
or Apple or Spotify or wherever you get your podcast.
Wherever you pick up your podcast.
Also link to it in the description.
Yes, there we go. So you can check it out. And then we also have this week your column. You're writing about the Alabama Power being voted one of the most trusted organizations.
Yes, this was not in the Nappies. This was by Newsweek. Named Alabama Power the 8th most trusted energy company in America.
I was just wondering, what are all the other energy companies doing if Alabama Power is the 8th most trusted?
Yeah.
What's going on with the rest of them?
I mean, we don't know what the questions were. So if it was just,
how often
does your power stay on all the time? Maybe that's...
How often have you spied on your CEO?
Spied on your CEO. How much toxic coal ash do you dump next to your waterways and...
How many dirty tricks groups do you employ?
How do you outlaw solar panels in your state?
I mean,
how aggressively do you work with state lawmakers?
How many pockets?
I thought that was a fascinating one. It was fascinating.
No, it was a fun call to write.
Yes, definitely worth checking out. That's all we have this week, folks. Thanks for listening to us, and we will be back next week with the next Lagnapod. Thanks for listening to us.
The Lagnapod is a Something Extra publishing production. Executive producers are Rob Holbert and Ashley Trice. Music is by Some Pulse Sound and Electro Animals. Only subscribers like you have access to this podcast. Tell your friends they can sign up at my.lynettemobile.com. For advertising opportunities, please call 251-450-4466.